Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 25 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. And today I am chatting with author Samantha Baca. Samantha, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, of course. Now, quick important question. Do you go by Sam, Samantha, Sammy? I mean, do you have nicknames? How does it,
I go by Samantha or Sam, and only my very small little relatives can call me Sammy.
Okay.
They're the only ones who get away with it.
Oh, so you don't like it? Or do you like it?
No. I went by it all through my elementary years, and then now I despise it.
Oh. So now we know it's going to be.
Yeah, if you want an answer, don't call me Sammy. I won't talk to you.
Or after becoming like really good friends, if I bust out with Sammy, you know that I'm not happy with you.
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's similar with me. With me, it's one of those like Viviana, and people try to always go with Vivian. I go, no. I had one friend in high school that if she busted out with Vivian, I knew she was not happy with me. Yeah. So that's why Viv, sweetie, sexy. I'm fine with all any of those.
There you go. There you go.
Right? I'm huge. I love giving people nicknames, and I'm very lovey-dovey that way. So you'll bust. Obviously, I always ask for consent and permission before I bust out with like, hey, honey, or hey, babe, come here, or stuff like that. But
yeah,
that's also why I always ask, because I know sometimes there are nicknames that are associated with certain names, like the shortening, but not everybody likes them. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, if I hear somebody yell Sammy at Readers Take Denver, I mean, I'm going to know it's you.
Oh,
I'm gonna, cross the room to get to Vivian.
See? Yeah, See, I would be more like, Sam, sexy Samantha. Bring you a drink.
There you go. See, I think that's our plan.
Perfect. We have it all set. For those of us that are tuning in for the first time and may not know a whole lot about you, why don't we tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been writing, and how'd you get started?
I have had a lifelong dream of wanting to be a published author. When I was a little girl, my dream was to own my own cabin in the middle of the woods in Colorado. And apparently I was just going to be single forever because my dream never involved a husband or children. So apparently I wanted solitude. But I dreamt about just sitting and watching the snow fall while I wrote these beautiful books. And then, that never happened. And I'm also deathly allergic to the woods, like almost every tree. So, I mean, that's never going to be a dream that comes true. I used to write here and there, but never anything that I could get, past that writer's block on. And back in 2018, I just had this dialogue in my head and I couldn't get it out. So I decided to write it down, and what went from a few sentences turned into a few paragraphs. And I told my husband a few days later, I think I wrote a couple chapters in a book. And he's like, well, that's interesting. I'm like, yeah, you're telling me. I didn't know I could do that. And then that turned into my debut book, which I rewrote 3 times. I changed from third person to first person, from present tense to past tense. I was all over the wall. So I didn't know that I was going to keep going. I was just kind of happy to have one book done, and I could say I wrote and published a book. That first book came out April of 2020. And as of December of 2022, I ended that year with 22 published books.
Wow.
So it's, I put out about 7 to 8 books per year. I write romantic suspense, which is what my debut novel was. That turned into a 5-book series that's complete. I have another romantic suspense trilogy that's also complete. And then I also write steamy contemporary romance, but most of it ends up being fictional small towns. I always have really strong family friend bonds in my books. And no matter how hard I try to write a standalone, they all end up in series because I apparently can't write characters that don't want their own story. So I'm a serial
Ah,
series writer.
yeah. Yeah, and those secondary characters that just like, hey, what
They're
about me?
so loud, so loud. I think I have maybe 4 books that are actual standalones because I refuse to write anything else.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I have my schedule planned through 2025 for my release schedule because I have 3 different series that I'm currently writing in. So
Wow.
I'll be busy for a while.
Just a tad, just a little bit.
Right?
I mean, aside
Yeah,
from family, home, and build and all that fun stuff that adulting takes over, uh,
right.
just a tad busy. Oosh. Well, I mean, it's also our fault as readers. We are always constantly asking, okay, what's coming up next, which is great.
Hmm.
And then you tell us, and then we read it. And then all of a sudden, that one character that you may have thought as that best friend that just decides to be on that scene for whatever reason, or someone that just enters that shop and says something cute and funny and then leaves. And we're going, well, what about them? We want more of
Right.
them. And you're
Do they
going,
get a
God
book?
damn it. Yeah.
That's happened a lot. I do get a lot of readers who want books from different characters. So now I've gotten to the point that when I start a series, I kind of just know how many books will be in it, but I leave, the last few books of it kind of empty as far as whose book it's going to be.
Mm.
So that way, as we work through the series, we can see, does so and so need a book or does so and so need a book? And my readers will usually, pop into my group and demand that so and so have a book.
In a loving and supportive
They're
way,
very vocal.
absolutely.
Absolutely. They ask very nicely,
Yeah,
which
we don't ever want to end up
works
in one of
well.
your books and end up being killed off. Okay.
No, that's only my suspense books, but I'm taking a break from those right now
Uh,
just because I think it's the Gemini in me. I can only go so many different ways, but sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled 20 different ways in my little creative head. And I tell people I'm either gonna, kill people or I'm gonna be super cute and put them in a small town and make it kind of a romantic comedy and make you laugh out loud. You never know. I may kill someone, I may not. It's it's a toss up, but right now I've been in this romantic comedy phase and that seems to be the trend and those are my series that are doing super well right now. I think I'm funny. I don't, always try to label my books as romantic comedies, but a lot of the reviews that come through end up including that word. So that's kind of how they get thrown in the categories on Amazon. I think I'm funnier than I am, but
and this is prior to drinks, folks. Well, it's interesting when humor, you never know. And I do find it fascinating when it comes down to the term romantic comedy as to what exactly is the comedy part of the romance
Hmm.
side. And it could be anything from just, having the character be a bit more goofier than
Hmm.
traditional. I mean, or the nerdy girl and yes, people do the whole like, oh, she looks so great now that she's not wearing her glasses. People, it's the same person. His glasses are not
Right.
that big of a distraction. All right. But yeah, it's just one of those things that depending on the bantering or if that there's a comic relief character that kind of pops in and then that times is the hero, other times it might just be that side character. But it's interesting very much so to see what is considered romantic comedy nowadays.
Right. And I always have a hard time putting my books in any category. So I kind of just leave it up to readers to decide more or less how they feel my books are going. I have a novella that is a small town, it's very slow burn age gap, and it seems to be the one that people put in the rom-com category most often because she's just that bubbly girl. She's, early 20s. She loves love. She has a cute little coffee shop. She has her own romance blog that, she gives people relationship advice. And of course, she meets the one guy that's new to town that wants nothing to do with love. So there's opposites attract, but then there's just, there's some funny moments where she's listening to an audiobook and tries to turn it off, but doesn't. So then it plays out loud on her speakerphone and he hears the dirty part. And then she has a pet turtle that has poor vision. And so it keeps mistaking her underwear for food. And so she keeps running out of panties. And, it's just little things like that that are super silly that add to the lightness of the book. But there's some general funny tone in it. But, I wouldn't call it like a full on rom-com because there are some some deeper issues that they have to work through. So I'm so bad at being able to just pick my books right and say it's definitely this category because they're so subjective. People, it may be rom-com for one person, but not for another.
Yeah, and there's not a percentage. It's not like a pie chart that says it must have XYZ in order percent-wise for it to be considered this, that, or whatever. And even then, the tropes now being even more popular than classifying books than the genres are. And that's also kind of weird for a lot of us because all right, unpopular opinion. I don't like the trope concept because for me, that's a little bit of a spoiler. Like if he's like a grumpy to sunny or that the age gap, I like learning that stuff as I'm reading. I need to know if it's a contemporary or romantic suspense, small town works, military, sports, balls, yay.
Right.
Mystery baby. Well, thanks. Now I know what's going to happen. Not that I didn't, right? Because it's a romance. I know they're going to live happily ever after because that is what definition of romance is, folks. But at the same time, it's the journey of how they get there that is the whole interest. And when the trope stuff comes into play, the way that it has been as of late tends to be
right.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, tropes are super heavy right now. And, I try to lean into them some in the blurbs because, that ends up being what readers are looking for right now. But, I have some that I could add a trope to, like the book I just talked about, but it would be a huge spoiler. So there are certain tropes that I know it encompasses, but I purposely leave out because, what's the point in reading the book if you know everything that is possibly going to happen? There's no twists and turns. And I'm a firm believer, and I'm probably, the minority also. I don't read dark romance. It's just not my thing. There's no shame in anybody who does. It's just, there's certain things that make me feel uncomfortable or I just don't enjoy reading it. However, there's other romance books that, there are some things that could have content warnings. But as a reader, for me personally, if I would have read those before I jumped in, I'd be really frustrated because it took the buildup away and it took that, twist and turn out of it. And so, I get that some people want to know everything in advance, but I'm one of those readers that I want to be surprised. Like that's the joy for me in reading is not knowing what's coming and having something completely unexpected pop up. And I mean, not like completely ridiculous where we're like, what the heck was that? But good expected.
Absolutely. And I think that that's also too, depending on the genre. And we are getting into the, ensuring that we try to make sure that our readers are safe, right? In our world and in our books that we're listening to or reading. And there are certain topics, specifically, if you're picking up a dark romance, y'all should know by now something ain't going to be good as far as that trigger warning list may be extensive.
Right.
And that's okay. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. But when I do read, and that's where, well, I've read a few. That's not my genre. I tend to go more with paranormal and then contemporary, small town things like that.
Right.
But I do know that even in these topics, sometimes there should be a little bit, and authors try to do it in part of maybe the blurb, like after a pregnancy loss, does she's, learning things. So certain things like that, as someone that has suffered them, getting in the middle of a book and going, ugh, oh my God, it won't stop me from reading it, but it just takes me out a little bit because it's that wave of not knowing.
Yeah.
But also how the author handles the subject.
Right.
Is extremely important.
Yeah. In my romantic suspense books, they're not dark romance, but they're darker than what I typically write. And so I do have content warnings for all of those. And, it's basic stuff that you would expect in a romantic suspense, stalking, killing, things like that. But, I still list out every single one. One of them that I released last year, I think it was. It's the third in the series, in the trilogy. And so it's one of those that you have to read everything in order. Otherwise, even though they're all different characters, you get spoilers because of the timeline. It's a single mom, and she's in the FBI, and her child is targeted in a child trafficking ring. And so, I made sure that I put content warnings for that. I mean, that's a very real thing that's happening right now. And it's, something that I, as a mother of two little girls, that I worry about. And I, struggled writing it. I mean, the book wanted to be what the book wanted to be. But because it hits so close to home on just a general level, with this being a real problem in the world right now, it was hard for me to write. And I can understand that it may be hard for some readers to read. It doesn't get graphic. I don't take it to any super dark places. It's just one of those, I think people should have a heads up. It also had a secondary character who experienced child loss. And so I have that as a content warning as well, because, I know there are certain things that can be very harmful to readers. And as authors, we never, I mean, the majority of us, I can't speak for everyone. I know most of us never, ever want to accidentally hurt somebody with the words that we write. And so I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we, put content warnings in there if we can.
Yeah.
I have a book that is all about pregnancy, but I don't put any heads up about it, because you see in the blurb that she wants to have a baby and she just turned 40 and her best friend's going to help her. And so, kind of that the whole book is going to be focused on her trying to get knocked up. So,
and also
that's
at an older age
expected.
group, with an older age, there's going to be more difficulties and potential, all that stuff. Yeah. That's where I say that if some of that info is on the blurb, we like, okay.
Yeah, you can kind of go. And I think, blurbs are so important. And
yes,
I can write like an 80,000 page book, but my God, I struggle trying to write a 250 word or less blurb.
I think that's like a common denominator among you authors. It's the vein of your existence. I think it's on that list for sure. Short things that are, when it comes down to the industry. But it's definitely one that I hear you guys bust out with. Why?
Yes, it is so hard. And, I think part of it is, you're trying to summarize a book in as few words as you can to make people want to read it. But, I've shifted my style because I do all of my own blurbs. And so I've shifted to make sure that I'm, grabbing those tropes, because some people don't like age gaps. Some people don't like friends to lovers or an older couple in their 40s. And so I think, putting all of that in the blurb really helps a reader also to just kind of set expectations and make sure that people know what they're getting into.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's important. We're always constantly asking, those are the conversations of like, hey, where are my, plus size girls? Where are my heroines? Where are my older heroines and older heroes?
Right.
Because, I'm not in my 20s anymore. And in reality, when I was in my 20s, no one in the office looked like these guys do. And, none of them were billionaires that said, and I love you, Viviana. No, none of that happens. So having some of those more characters that are a little bit older and have more representation is always great. So I do love it when the authors provide that information. And research is so important too. If you're going to write about something, whether it's things that go kaboom, like in romantic suspense, or it's the sports romance, or that you have the right term for the ball.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. There have been times that I'm like, ooh, please, nobody be checking my browser history right now. Because, we don't need to know what I Googled about how to hide that body or ways to decompose it, or it also goes on the kinky side. Like, my husband's like, why are you looking up Jacob's ladder? I'm like, why don't we talk about this when our kids aren't around? It's there's a lot of stuff that we find ourselves Googling. I wrote a novella that is the heroine is a chef at an upscale restaurant, and it's got enemies to lovers vibes, but I, for the life of me, cannot write a true enemies to lovers story. So I never ever try to put it in that genre because I don't fit there. I just kind of have like kind of grumpy. It's kind of like a reverse grumpy sunshine. But the guy that, is interested in her owns the food truck outside. And so I spent months making sure that I knew all of the proper terms for stuff. I knew how a kitchen worked. I knew how food trucks worked. My husband's like, are we starting a business? Are you opening a restaurant? And I'm like, I don't know. How's that macaroni and cheese? Is that to your liking? That's my level here. But I've ventured down so many paths for research, and I think it's, one of those things that readers appreciate. Like, I read books and I'm like, whoa, I had no idea. And then I go and Google it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Apparently you can die that way.
Yes, you can. And funny enough too, it's one of those where you don't know who your reader is, and you are you're writing about that, that restaurant and that chef and that thing, and then you end up getting someone like me that's a chef, and you use the wrong dice. I'm gonna be like, girl.
Right. And I'm like, okay, 86, that 86.
She totally went for my heart there and used the right term for that. Yes.
I need it on the fly, Viviana.
Oh, yeah, and you're not in the weeds. Yes.
I'm not in the weeds. I'm doing okay today.
Yes, awesome. Okay, for those that don't know these terms, 86 means canceling an order. In the weeds, you're way into trouble and you're behind.
On the fly, we're gonna rush that.
Yep,
because we messed it up the first time, probably.
Yep. But those are things that also makes the reader smile. In that, she did do her work, and oh my gosh, she got that term right.
Right.
And
or it makes you wonder how many jobs this author has had before they gave up and started writing.
It's always a conversational starter, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, no matter what online or not, and I've found it where I have reached out to authors and said, thank you so much for using the right terminology or coming up with the right terms. And that's all for things like restaurant talk to even miscarriages, because it's important to, I think, let you guys know, right? And but I've also reached out to the author and busted out with like, here's a Google link. Write book 2 in a cafe next time.
Right.
But I always feel like I want to say a bit of that thank you for taking the time to do, because it's a lot of research and it's a lot. And it goes on the page goes really quickly, right? You're not always just talking that lingo all the time. And it just could be a blurb, a minute in the kitchen, for an example, or that conversation about, where the relationship's going next. And if family is part of it or not, what does that family look like? And for you to take the time to do the research and write it eloquently with respect is important. And I will say that again, when authors don't do that, it's a topic of conversation among readers, and we will tell people. And
absolutely.
And also a little bit of that respect kind of falls like, next time you come out with I may get your book, but it ain't gonna be on top of my list, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Nope, I agree.
Yeah. Again, important things, little things like that are details. The same thing like with book covers, spending the time on that, getting the things edited. It's a whole part of the process that a lot of readers don't know what goes into it. And it's very fascinating. I think when I love seeing it on social media when a newbie reader or listener busses out with, I had no clue. And I'm like, welcome to the world of books.
Right. When I first started, I had no idea how much work was involved. And, my husband and I, we just jumped straight into it. He's a graphic designer, so he does all of my covers. I come up with the concepts. I design them in Canva, but then I take all of the elements and I hand them over to him, and he does them in Photoshop. And there's a lot of tweaks that he has to do because, I only do the mock-ups. I'm not trying to create the real cover. But we have taken so much time to study trends to know what typography we should use, what colors are appropriate for different genres, what images to use. We've learned so much, and getting a book from start to finish between editing and just writing in general, doing the blurb, doing the cover, all of that. It's a beast. And I will devour a book in a few hours that someone else wrote, but I'm like, you guys, I hope you know that this took me 3 months.
Oh my goodness.
Go down and read it a little longer.
Right. Oh my goodness. And I know that it's one of those, this is how much we love you guys as authors. This is how much we enjoyed the story. That whole, I couldn't put it down is real. And I've done it, but I also try to savor it. There's my, culinary thing. I like savoring the sweetness and things like that of the books, but I totally can relate. And yes, I've been guilty of DMing one of you guys, busting out with, so when's the next one coming out? And then getting yelled at in caps, Viviana, this took me 7 months. I'm like, I love it. I'll reread it again. Thanks. Bye. Which is why we love this community with so many different authors. We're like, okay, just we'll revisit. We'll go hang out over here. And oh, look, Samantha has a book. Let's go.
I think it's great that there's so many authors because, when we look at how much a reader can read, I mean, if that reader was just waiting around for their favorite author, they'd only read a handful of books a year. Whereas, reading is such a beautiful thing. And I've always been a huge reader. I remember growing up and my mom would, read James and the Giant Peach to my sister and I before bed. And, those were my favorite times. All the favorite books that she, read to me then are still fresh in my mind now. And, I think it's wonderful that there's so many authors out there that readers can literally go through, 10, 20, 100 books a month and feed that need that they have to devour books without, feeling like they can only read this author or that author. To have so many different favorite authors is just such an incredible thing. And I really feel like, I've been doing this almost 3 years, but I still feel like I'm brand new where I'm like, oh my God, somebody liked my book. No way. And it just, it shocks me. It still surprises me.
Yeah. I don't think that should ever go away. I think the majority of the authors that I've spoken with and know, and some the ones that I'm friends with that have been writing for years, I'm talking about decades, 10 years, 8 years, 20.
Yeah.
That whole why do you like my book? You do? Oh my God. Still happens. Gotta love imposter syndrome. But it's also, it's a work of art and, up into interpretation sometimes. And what someone might love and adore, I might look at you like, did we read the same book? Because no.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, my books aren't for everyone. Yeah, I have a book that releases next Tuesday, and I gave it to ARC readers on the 1st of February. And I was trying to go and get my review links up for them so they could easily, go and do their reviews. Because I'm like, okay, I'm working ahead. We're good. I had people within a few hours of getting the book asking me where the Goodreads link was. And I'm like, oh, I don't have it yet, but I'll have it by the time you're done. And they're like, no, I'm done.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. It hasn't even been a full 12 hours, but okay.
Yeah,
and just the amount of positive feedback that people are so excited to have something that I've written. It's just it's an amazing feeling.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's anything when someone enjoys what you do, and it just reinvigorates you to want to go, oh, okay, fine, I'll keep writing. Otherwise it'd be a very lonely, because it's already a lonely career for you guys, right? It's the walls, the pen, the computer, having to have that isolation in order to write, because the characters in your head talking count but don't at the same time. So
no, totally.
That information is helpful and then motivated to keep you going again and write some more.
Yeah. And the positive feedback, I have readers who message me constantly, and I love and I adore it. I'm one of those authors, I won't go check my reviews. The only time I check my reviews is when I have a new release, and that's just from my ARC team, but they have a form that they submit to me that has their links, so I can just go check to see that it's done, and that's it. I'm just the person that I stepped away early last year, from reading my reviews because I don't think it's the place that authors need to be. And again, that may be an unpopular opinion. The reviews aren't for us. That's a reader's safe place. That's their space to say, hey, I like this book. Hey, I didn't like this book. It wasn't for me. I didn't like X, Y, and Z. And I wholeheartedly value and respect that. I don't go check my reviews, not because I don't want to see the bad ones that I've gotten, but some of them are, how do I say this politely? Because, my mama always reads. Some of them are so cruel, not just with me, but even with other authors. They're just, they write them to tear people to shreds, to tear their work to shreds. And it's not anything that's helpful or constructive, and it's not my place to be. And so I don't go read my reviews because I don't want to stumble upon those ones, because it will put me in a mindset where I say, nope, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And for me, writing is my therapy. It's my mental break when I need one. And so to taint that with the negativity, because when I see somebody's, written words of, I didn't like this because this author really sucks and she shouldn't live, that can really fester in somebody's head.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
It's not the place for me to be. I have alpha readers, I have beta readers, I have my ARC readers. So I have a pretty strong, solid team in addition to my editing team that, gives me the feedback along the way. So a lot of them are my sensitivity readers, so they let me know if something sounds a little off, or maybe we shouldn't word it that way, or that just made me feel really weird. There's stuff, I write stuff and I could forget a sentence like 2 seconds after I write it. And so having other eyes on it is really, really valuable. But getting that initial feedback where people have taken the time to message me directly to say, hey, I really love this book, or, oh my gosh, this is my favorite of the year. Like, that's tremendous. I don't know that readers know the true impact they have when they, branch out and decide to contact an author directly to tell them how much they love their book. But really, there's no harm that can come from that. So
oh yeah,
y'all should do it if you feel like it.
and here's something too, and thank you for bringing this up. I am of the mindset that the reviews should be there for the authors, but not in how it's being done as of late, right? In order to have that conversation of, in case your editor for whatever reason didn't catch it, or someone else in your team didn't catch it, having that, hey, there is something that didn't flow correctly. I did not like this character because of XYZ, and then there was a plot hole here. Fill in the blanks. It's how you go about it. You're sharing your opinion, and opinions are like assholes. We all have one. It does not mean that we need to vocalize it at all, or that anybody asked for it. From a reviewer's perspective, it is being asked of me, but that does not negate that I have to be cruel about it. I can write a review and make it all about the book without not even making it B word, you never write again. There's a different way to say it.
It's like there's a whole broad area, but it's like people just kind of sit on the outliers, like, let's go to the far extreme. And I had a novella that I put out back in 2020, and it's currently my free reader magnet. And it's about a steamy romance author who's struggling to write her sex scenes, and she finds herself eavesdropping on her next door neighbor because he's getting a ton of action. And so, obviously, spoiler alert, we all know that they'll end up getting together because it's a romance book. Like, it'd be real strange if I put them together and then I had her get with someone else. But I didn't pay attention when I was writing it, and I didn't put on page that they used a condom. I just did not think about it. It just completely, was not in my head. And I had somebody review it and they mentioned it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're 100% right. So I went back and I edited the book because absolutely they should be using a condom. They should have safe sex. That's really gross. If not, they hardly know each other. Let's be clean, you guys. Let's make good choices.
Yeah, I know.
But
I'm that
had
girl
the
too.
reviewer not mentioned that, I wouldn't have noticed it. Nobody else on my, reading team had caught it, but a reader did, and they put it in the review, and it wasn't a bad review. It was, I think, a 3 or 4 star rating, which I was super happy with. But, I was super thankful for that feedback, but I didn't respond to the review because, I feel like there's such a hard line still, like, do authors engage on TikTok? Is that a place for authors and readers to connect? Some say yes, some say no. Just on Goodreads, should an author respond to reviews? Some say yes, some say no. I went with the no. I don't know that reader wanted to hear from me. I wasn't saying anything negative, but also I didn't want to violate that respect. I didn't want to cross a line. And I always leave it very open, especially in my, reader groups and stuff, that if anybody sees anything in my books, they can always reach out to me. Like, I'm the author that if you find an error, tell me. I'll fix it. I don't care if it was 3 years ago. Let's correct it. But, I was super thankful for that review.
Yeah, I'm that girl too that busts out with, like, I would have been like, Samantha, they just mad. Did you?
Uh-huh. Right. And so now I'm like super anal with everything. I'm like, let's get all the condoms. We went to Costco. We bought a bunch. We've got bulk for all the books. Yeah. Everyone's wearing them.
Everyone. Yes. It's even balloon animals. No, I'm just kidding. Now, I think that there's a visual. I think like with any kind of fandom, there is always those readers that are enjoying the story. And it's great to be like that hype girl for authors too, right? But I think there's that blind fandom too, that they can do no wrong and everything is gold. And I'm like, listen, we all have our good days and we all have our bad days.
Right.
While the previous book may have been a 5-star or a 4-star, this was okay, and it's okay to be okay, right? Because it's my opinion. I always am very weary about those reviewers and those even influencers nowadays that are everything that they fucking read is 5 stars, and I'm like, either A, you have no standards. Or my favorite part, of course, is that you work for them and you're just not being transparent. And I can totally tell when certain people work for authors and narrators and and it's just one of those things where you're going, I don't trust you anymore.
Right.
From a reviewer's perspective and someone that reads the reviews.
Yeah. A lot of my ARC team, they're consistent with, they'll message me if anything pops up. They've been with me for quite a few years. I always have my ARC team open though. So it's not one of those exclusive. I always post open calls for people to join with whatever book I'm at. And if it's in a series, I offer new people to read the backlist that I'll give them copies so that way they can catch up. But, a lot of my ARC team, I get 4-star ratings. I get a little leery when I start seeing too many 5 stars. I'm like, did I love the book that much? I mean, I wrote it, so I don't know that I would give it 5 stars, but I mean, I think we're probably at like a 4.5. But for my beta readers, I've taken beta readers from alpha readers, and I only have people on my alpha and beta team that can give me that really hard constructive criticism. Those are the right words, because it does me no favors for people to just, sing me praises. I want to do better. I want it to be something that people thoroughly enjoy, even though it may not be everyone's cup of tea. I want it to be the best cup of tea that some people have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I want that constructive criticism. I have a girl who's on my ARC team, and, there's some characters I've written and she's like, that girl just annoyed me, or my God, that guy she just wasn't my typical guy that I like. And that's 1000% okay. Doesn't mean she doesn't like me or she doesn't like my books. She didn't like a character. And I'm going to write some characters that some of my regular readers won't like, because if I wrote the same character over and over and over, why read any more of my books? Because then they're just all the same. So I appreciate, having some negative in there.
Well, I mean, it's constructive, right? And if you have people on your art team that came into it because they discovered your books and they love your writing style, right? That's also something different than the tropes or the genre. It's how you vocalize a story. And then when it comes into it, if I'm on art team and I find myself not loving it anymore, it could be that there's stuff going on in my life, and then there's or the writing style change, because you're allowed to do that.
Exactly.
And that's when the conversation of, okay, so I love you still. Let's take a break, or
I may come back later. I may not.
Exactly.
That's okay.
And there's always that whole concept that like the art teams are there for the marketing. Yes, there is, folks. It is. But, there are rules and with how things are done. But, wanting to only have those people that give you 5 stars it's a detriment. Honestly, it truly is a detriment to your potential growth.
It is.
Yeah. So those are important. Have them be nice and kind. And if you need to train, that's the other thing too. Sometimes people don't know how to write a review. And by the way, if you guys are listening, restating the blurb does not count as a review. Right? I can read the damn blurb myself. Rejudging it. It's telling me that it's starting the sentence where if he had blonde hair when the original blurb had it on the second, that's not a review. I want to know about character development, character growth. Was there good writing? Was it edited? How are the narrators? Because that's also different. Don't blame the narrators if the book wasn't well, or don't blame the book if the narrators are not the best. Those are separate. Right. Keep that in mind.
Exactly.
And it's good to have come into those conversations and say, hey, things to consider when you're doing a review, things to look at. I think sometimes we're, part of that is missing a little bit, but I love it when people are telling us, oh my God, I felt so good after reading this, or all that stuff, or I couldn't put it down.
Right. But then they say why.
Yes.
Like, why did you love it? Not just, I gave it 5 stars because I loved it. Like, why? I gave it 5 stars because the heroine went through this life transformation and I was able to relate because I'm recently divorced and starting over, or, something that is
line was
true
funny
to
as
what
shit.
they loved about it.
Right? Yeah.
There's this turtle that keeps eating her panties.
I'm like, where the hell did you come up with that? And I love it.
It's just the random stuff that pops up in my damn head.
Yeah.
I don't know why there decided to be a turtle that ate panties. There's also a really foul-mouthed parrot in that book too.
Oh.
And the girl's best friend owns a pet shop, but it has a speakeasy vibe. So you have to get the password before you can go into it.
Nice.
And so she's actually getting the second book that will come out this June.
What's the password to pet the ferret?
Well, and so the pet shop is called Cool Cats. And I forget what the password was in the book, but I'm sure we're going to have a ton of passwords in the second book since it's her pet shop.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know why I decided to make a pet shop a speakeasy. Like, I don't know why the turtle had to eat panties. I have no idea. I'm surprised by half the shit I write most of the time anyway. Wow.
But that's the creativity that I love. That's the creativity that readers are like, yes, it's romance. Yes, we know it's romantic suspense. Things are going to go kaboom while they're trying to make out. We know this already. But, or yes, he's a firefighter and she's this or whatever the case is. It's those details that are the differences that totally make a book stand out and that we fall right in love all over again with the genre and the authors. And because I mean, like, having a dog and a cat can only go so far after so many books. Having a turtle that eats the panties, that's interesting and definitely memorable. So total marketing there.
Yeah.
Total marketing.
That's the one thing people talk about with that book. And I think that was the one thing that showed up the most in reviews. I think BookBub, like turtle was a trending word for that book. And I'm like, people are going to think it's like a how to care for turtles book.
Oh, God,
I mean, I did a lot of research on,
yes.
I've never had a turtle. But I've done research on like, what kind of enclosure do they need? Well, okay, we're going to learn about substrate. This is what they eat. So, I had to make it realistic and not just like she put the turtle in the shoebox and it got out and ate all of her underwear and it was no longer Victoria's Secret. So
See, yeah, it's just one of those now. And if Turtle ever trends on Twitter when I'm on there, and because of the right hand side that gives you what the trends are, I'm gonna be like, Samantha.
Samantha's book is out.
Yeah. Turtles in Association.
I also have one with Oreos, and I have a reader who we just were talking random talk one night in my Facebook group, and I had, I think, 3 packages of the like little 2 cookie snack packs, like Oreo, the white Oreos, and the Chips Ahoy. And I had them out, and I was like, which one is your guys' favorite? So we started talking, and my group gets rowdy, and one reader was saying something about her husband, and it just got to an inappropriate level. And I was like, well, you could take the Oreos and separate them and use the cream and stick them to your boobs, to cover your nipples. And so it transpired into this whole thing, and she's like, "Oh my God, now I need a book with Oreos." And so I gave her a book with Oreos. And Blame It on the Eggnog. I write a lot of holiday novellas. Blame It on the Eggnog was the last one that I released last December, and there's a whole Oreo scene. So now every time she sees someone ask about Christmas books, she's like, "Go get yourself a bag of Oreos and then read this book." And I'm like, it's not a how-to, you guys.
Creative
but
Oreo
now it's a
usage.
running joke. So now anytime she sees Oreo, she's like, "Oh, we got to blame it on the eggnog." I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I think that I single-handedly boosted Oreo sales last December.
Potentially, yeah. And now we also know what to bring to you for shits and giggles at Reader's Take Denver to get your books.
Right?
Bring your Oreos, folks.
Bring me some Oreos. And my husband will be attending with me, so he'll fully know what's happening with those Oreos. Just saying.
Nice.
I don't think he's going to object at all.
Yeah, he's going to be like, "Honey, I'll leave at least one packet for later. Okay, babe."
Right? Slide them under the table. Put them in the purse.
Yeah.
We're celebrating our wedding anniversary out there as well.
Oh, nice.
We got married March 21st. So we're taking advantage of being away for the signing, and we're sneaking in a little anniversary romantic weekend when I'm not running around with my head cut off,
Well, a lot of people use conventions and signings as a bit of either right before or soon thereafter to do some form of vacation, which is great that you can, almost like a double dip. But yeah, at Denver, March 30th through April 2nd, it's going to be a nice 4-long day weekend where we get to hang out with authors, yell their name across the halls, and bust out with, "I'll get you the Oreo."
Right? If we need to pass Oreos around, if anybody's attending and wants to come get your book signed, just bring me an Oreo. That's my payment, I guess.
You're gonna end up with a stack of Oreos. You're gonna be like, "Viviana." I'm like,
I know.
Now we have
I'm
recipes
gonna be the
to look
Oreo
at.
lady.
Yeah, now we have to come up with recipes for that baking book that you're gonna do, right? Someone's gonna be a baker in that restaurant.
Right. Well, I have another one where they are bakers and he's a chocolatier. I don't know.
See?
Cooking seems to be a trend in my books, I guess.
Well, it is a very sensual act of, an intimates when you look at it, right? The whole providing someone and the creative ways people can use food is nicely done.
Yeah, I had a rowdy scene in the one I was telling you about. It's All Is Fair in Food and War. And that's the one with the food truck and the upscale chef. And I had somebody read and review, and they're like, as a real chef, I had to remind myself that this is just fiction and that it's okay that they did something unsanitary.
Yes.
Because it's just fiction. It's like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'll have that moment of like,
I didn't
not
mean
on
to
the
ruin
table,
that for you.
not on the table. Station, for fuck's sake.
Right? Like, I violated all of the safe places in your kitchen. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yeah. You will never look at that wooden spoon again the same.
Right. I don't know. They were on the fly.
Yeah. See? Ooh, you use what you have available. Okay, girl? You use what you have available.
Right?
Yeah.
They only had a short window. Not even literally. I meant to say window of time, but then I took a drink of my coffee and I'm like, that also works. I mean,
yes, absolutely. Yeah, that freezer can be multi-purposed. Go in there to yell after someone's not giving you the ingredients, or there are other things. Just, yeah.
Have a nice cold air to nip certain body parts.
Yep. Cool off.
Yep.
70 options. Yeah. We're going to have an entire episode on, we should do a panel at the events. Lisa, this is not an idea for this year, but maybe next year.
If you need a Oreo speaker for 2024, just let Lisa know.
Yep.
I'm all over it.
Perfect.
I'm all about how to use food in inappropriate ways in books.
Yep. That's totally going to be a panel
Actually
topic.
Had quite a trend for a while where almost all of my books had some sort of a food scene in it. There was brownies, there was fried chicken, there was something with a sub, there's Oreos.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a thing about food.
Yeah, totally gonna be a panel next year.
Yeah, I'll lead a whole session on how to incorporate food into spicy books.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can totally see a track for the husband that come along with the attendees as
right.
Having the male track be like for the spouses so she's a writer, how to use food.
Right. Making the grocery lists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn, that's a very random assortment. I know.
Yeah, totally works out. This is going to be you think you shared before we started that this is your first signing. What are you looking forward to the most?
This is my first official signing. So I'm struggling with that because as an author, I'm so excited to be there and to meet people. As a reader, I'm like totally fangirling at the authors that are going to be there. And so I'm struggling because I want to be good and be an author and sit in my seat and wait for people to come so I can sign their books. But then part of me just wants to run around like crazy, going to all of the other authors I love and take selfies and have them sign my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a bit overwhelming trying to control the reader inside of me.
Yeah,
but
I know.
I think it's going to be such a fun event. There's so much that's lined up between all of the different panels and the events and the parties. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how much there's going to be to do and just kind of maximizing every minute so I can fully take it in and enjoy it and, meet the readers who are coming to pick up their pre-orders and meet new readers that may just be passing by. I'm looking forward to that the most, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely a perk when it comes down to having these events that are longer than a day or two, is that you'll have more than a lot of opportunities to connect with the authors. So even if you don't have the chance to do it while the official book signing is happening, there are panels and a lot of you guys are awesome and will stick around a little bit afterwards to sign books. Then there's the unofficial, let's meet at the bar.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, hey, we're going to be in the hallway on this floor. Come over and hang out. Bring Oreos. And just all these different things that you get to do both. You get to be the fan and be the author all at the same time.
So I already put all my pre-orders in. And so I've already, chatted with a few of the authors like Claire Hastings and I, she already knows I'm planning to track her down and tackle her when I see her so I can get my books from her. And, I've already put my list and I've given it to my husband. I'm like, okay, here's the mission. Here's who we're tracking down.
Yes.
But I think, during setup and stuff, we'll have plenty of time for authors to
be
the readers and get what we need from each other.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. On Thursday, there's the mingle where the authors are hanging out with the authors and the narrators. So you guys will get to hang out together, and then influencers and bloggers and reviewers that we've invited will come in, and then everybody else comes in, and so you'll have those moments where it provides you with some of that like, oh my god moments, and you and I write together moments. I'm gonna hire you for my audiobook situations. And then the panels. And like I said, there's going to be so many different opportunities there for you guys to connect. and get things done as a reader. So even if you are a little concerned that there's going to be a lot of people, not enough time for the book signings, there's technically 3 different book signings and there's so many opportunities. So no worries, guys. You guys are going to get those books signed and get those moments with the authors and the narrators. So it's going to be fun.
So much fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. So your books are also in audio. What made you decide to go into that format?
Well, I was reluctant to jump in for a while because I was just so focused on writing. And doing audiobooks, it's fun. However, I think that a lot of people aren't really as familiar with how much work goes into it, not just, on the narrator side, but as the author, we have to listen to the whole book to, approve each chapter. And well, at least I do. So, I'll pull up the PDF copy of my book on my computer, and usually I can do like an hour, hour and a half, and I just go through whatever chapters I can get through in that time. And if there's any corrections that I need made, then I have to jot those down and know what the timestamp mark is. And it ends up, being quite a bit of time. I wanted to have audiobooks done because I wanted to offer my readers as many options to enjoy my books as possible: paperback, ebook, Kindle Unlimited, audio. And I finally got to the point that I had more time. When I first started publishing, I had 2 little ones that were both under 2 years old. I forget. And so, being a very busy stay-at-home mom and having 2 toddlers, it took up a lot of the time. And at the time, I wanted to focus on writing instead of other stuff. Now they're 4 and 5. So I have, nights where I can be up a little bit later than everyone else and crank it out. So I started doing the audiobook stuff late last year, I think maybe September. And I have one that just went live yesterday. And then I have 4 others that are out, and I have 3 more that are in production. And so that's been really fun. The narrators that I've been working with, they're fabulous. I think the last one I did, it's almost a 70,000 word book. And I think I had maybe 7 things that needed to be corrected just because they're like glitches in the way Audible uploaded it on my side, like it skipped over a word or just random things. So, that's a fantastic narrator to only have like 7 things out of that big of a document. It's made my life so much easier because I'm not having to stop every few minutes to note things that I need fixed. And so, I'm excited to get some more audiobooks out, probably around April or May this year. I'm not sure where I'm going next with it. All of the ones I have currently are all exclusive on Audible. But for my romantic suspense books, I may be looking at doing those with a different production company. I would ideally love to do those as dual narrator. They're dual points of view. And
nice.
I think because of the suspense portion of it, I feel like it's going to sound better having a male narrator do the male point of view and a female for the females. I don't want to sound like bitchy or snobby or anything, but for me, sometimes I have a hard time with male narrators trying to do female voices when they're doing the characters. And so to have a male narrator do a book that has a lot of chapters that are in hers, I think that would pull away from it and take people out of the suspense part. So I'm focusing differently on my romantic suspense books. I have 2 series that are complete and ready to go into Audible or to go into audiobooks, but I'm still taking the time and looking at all of the options for that. And then I have holiday books that I'll try to get out for this year. That's the majority of what I had out last year. And man, people were not just about the ebook holiday books, but holiday audiobooks were super popular last year, and mine did extremely well, even though they came out some of them only like a week before Christmas.
Well, hey, I mean, when you're trying to wrap or bake cookies for, X amount of parties, come up with designs and stuff and everything, I'm like, audio is the way to go because I can multitask.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very helpful to have that opportunity to multitask. But you're right. I think it's not you being bitchy or anything like that. There is a level of particularness that you have to have for your own books. Casting is huge. And I know that it's something that readers will say,
right,
love this narrator, love him. He can't do a female voice to save his life. And it's not the expectation of he going to sound like a girl, because hello, no, we want the one of the things we love about the books is like when they have, and you guys are awesome as far as providing that he had a deep, grumbly voice, right? That means that the register is a little lower, which means they're not going to come up here high what we consider typical female voice tones. But there's a way to do it, and there's how things can be done, and the suspending the disbelief thing that happens. But I personally love a dual point of view or even duet, because that provides us a different level of doing things. But also for the listeners, that's also a lot more expensive. So please keep that in mind with authors. Be nice. But if the book is majority female, that's one thing I would suggest. If the book is majority female, hire the female narrator. If it's all the male point of view, then hire the male. I've seen it where it's the opposite, and I'm like, why?
Right.
Why? But
yeah, in my books, I'm so regimented that almost 90% of my books are every other chapter. It rotates. On occasion, like we'll get 2 back to back of her and then him, but almost everyone is like equal split between her and him. So, I think it's definitely one of those that for the suspense ones, I want that to be distinguished. And for my lighter ones, those I've done all just single narrator, but I've had some females that they've done really good with distinguishing that it's a male voice. And it hasn't pulled me out of the story at all. So I think, that works well. Plus they're lighter. They're, the ones that people feel are more rom-com-y. So it's fitting with the way the female voices are on those ones. But the suspense ones, I feel like I need to do them justice because, they're popular books. They do really well. And I don't want someone to be turned off because they expect like, a deep voice for the male, and then it's, super squeaky or or whatnot. Want to make sure the cast is right and that we really, really feel the characters.
It's a lot of work, like I said, aside from what the narrator does to it, the work that goes in front of it and to prep it. It's all, it's a lot, which is always why we're, as listeners, are so grateful when we finally do get that audiobook done. So thank you for wanting your books to be accessible to everybody and to have that opportunity. That's fantastic. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how you do your. Yeah, well, hey, it's not an easy process. Trust me. And the saying a narrator can make or break it is true. So
just like a book could make or break a narrator.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Definitely. I'm for a fact as much as I love my narrators, and they do know I love them tremendously. If it wasn't for the author in the book, y'all wouldn't have jobs. So I love my authors. It's we need to have the story first. Otherwise, that's a different conversation. So not gonna go there. But it's definitely something that I think that if it's an opportunity, it's just like years ago, everything was paperback, right? And hardback was like, ooh, hardcover books. Wow. And then ebooks came into play. And then now it's just a different format. And there are things that are involved there differently. And it's not as easy as people tend to think that it might be. So be kind, be cool, enjoy the books. If you love audiobooks, buy them. If cost is an issue, subscriptions or libraries, they're free there. So
exactly.
There's different ways to go about it. Yeah. Just like they have art books, they actually have ALC teams. So there's always a way to support the authors that isn't, stealing.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that out loud.
And my biggest struggle I get promo codes with every book that I launch. I get 25 US and 25 UK. I cannot for the life of me find enough people that can use Audible UK codes. So I just sit on more than half of them. Like, I would love to give them to people to read and review. I cannot find Audible UK people that can utilize the codes. So, I mean, if people can and they want them, I have them for all of my books. I'll gladly give them out.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit on promo codes. That's, free audiobooks for people. So
yeah, and also
that's my
reviews
biggest
for you. Yeah,
right.
we'll offline opportunities and areas there after we officially sign off. But yeah, I mean also too, if you guys are listeners that use the the Audible UK accounts, hit an author up. Ask the question. Do you have an ALC team, or do you provide codes in the UK? I think it's usually because the popularity of UK codes are not widely known. Listeners that are potentially using the Audible UK are like, there's nothing for me, so why am I going to bother? Like, no, ask the question. Ask.
Yeah, and I always post in my art groups. I post there first. Anytime I have a new audiobook, I'll let them know, hey, I have review codes. If anybody wants them, let me know if you're US or UK. I have a lot of people who have access to UK codes that are in the US because they've moved. And so they'll grab those because they know that it means they're guaranteed to get one, because I always have a hard time, giving those ones away. And so anybody on my ARC team, I always, post in there that if they're caught up on any other audiobooks that they've signed up for with me, they can grab a new code. Like, I'm always willing to give them out.
Yeah, no, opportunities.
There's always opportunities to get them. I do a lot of giveaways too. Ebooks, paperbacks, audiobook codes in my newsletter, and my Facebook page, my group.
Yeah.
I think the queen of giveaways, because I usually have at least one or two happening.
Damn, girl. Well, you know what?
My husband's like, do we have a store now? Because you're shipping.
Well, the funniest thing too is that this is also how we give, how us as readers can give back, is that if you are getting something for free, whether it's an ARC or even a giveaway. Now, granted, there's a difference between getting an ARC or ALC in exchange for an honest review versus giveaway, but another lovely way to support the author, especially those that do provide their readers with giveaways and things like this, is to write a review. It doesn't take that long.
I know reviews are so huge, and I think there's a lot of misconception around what reviews do for authors. There used to be this thing that went around forever saying if a book got 50 reviews or ratings on Amazon, then Amazon would start promoting that book for the author. But I might be wrong, but I want to say that it's no longer a thing, and that's not anything Amazon does anymore. However, authors are always looking for reviews, because reviews are social proof for other readers that other people found this book to be something to read and leave a review on. So the more reviews we have, the more likely other readers who don't know us yet are to pick up our work. But it's also tremendous for authors who are looking to do some of the larger book signings. I know that this one, Readers Take Denver, was a little different. I don't know what the criteria was that they looked for when authors requested to join, but I know Indies Invade Philly, Book Bonanza, Live in Vegas, a lot of those are incredibly hard to get into. And I know that many times, they look at the author's Goodreads and Amazon and whatever profiles to see how popular, for lack of a better word, the author's books are, because they want to have highly desirable authors at these signing events, because they want to be able to attract readers who want to come to see these authors to get their book signed. And so, somebody could have a really, really amazing book, but it not have enough ratings, and that person might be overlooked for, signing event, or to be featured in some exclusive book box, or, there's a bunch of things that are kind of behind the scenes on the author side that people don't notice that these reviews actually impact by not having a ton of reviews. it can kind of hinder certain things for an author to do. And, my books are just now kind of building up on their reviews. But I've spent the past 2.5 years just rapidly writing and releasing and not really worrying about any marketing or promoting. Kept my ARC team small because I've been super busy. Two toddlers, they're crazy. They keep me on my toes. And for me, I published with the intention of not turning it into anything more. So I just kept surprising myself when I'd write another book. Now that I've taken the time to market and promote, I'm seeing more reviews actually come in, which is helpful. But it's one of those things that, if I would have been doing that all along,
well,
I probably would have had more by now. But
but there's also just I'm going to make you feel better. Those people that are constantly busting out with reminding their readers and people that hire PR companies, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to get sometimes the reviews in. Part of it is the reviewers' own imposter syndrome of why would anybody care what I have to say?
Right.
The perfectionism sometimes that some of us have about making sure that the review is written in a really well. Yeah, that's part of me. As far as making sure that it's you're sharing everything and posting it on there. The time that it takes sometimes it is a quick review, and you can't do quickies. Quickies are actually okay here, and but others will write. And like, it does not need to be a thesis statement, folks, or,
no
pages. But if it is you and that's what you do, great. But even it's just busting out with a social media post and posting that same, the how much you loved it and the why that you did on Facebook or Instagram or getting on TikTok. Write that stuff down and copy paste it over to, Amazon and Goodreads.
Exactly.
And if you have a blog on your blog, make a little graphic using Canva and post it on there so people can find it. It's every little bit helps, and it's a lot of these things can make or break the author too. And in fact, that I know that there have been anthologies where you have to have a certain amount of reviews. I know that some events consider the reviews, and also you guys wanting to go to these book events, right? If you know that you have readers out there that love your stuff, it ain't cheap, folks. Okay, you guys complain about the ticket cost sometimes for some of these events. On the flip side, what it costs the authors to go to these events, from the ship, the travel,
plus
shipping,
to order swag and
we like
books,
our swag.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot
I like
that goes
spoiling people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I don't even think about like what swag do I want to bring over to Readers Take Denver this year. And I might just bring Oreos with labels on them. Watch. Like, thank you, Samantha.
See, if I see anybody, wandering around with Oreos looking a little like intimidated, I'll be like, just go see Viviana. She knows.
Yeah.
She knows what we're doing.
Okay. Like, what's with all the Oreos? It's going to be like a running meme. Watch. Over there. But the other thing, it's because it's been talk about learning a lot of things from these conversations. But something else that I love to do with the authors is to, part of it is to see how good of a liar they are. But then again, you guys write, fiction for a living. I expect it to be good to some extent, right? Is to play the game of 2 truths and a lie, where you tell us 3 things about you and we have to figure out which one's the lie. So if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. What are your 3 things, Samantha?
Okay. So 1, I got engaged on a beach in Hawaii. 2, I have 5 tattoos. 3, I'm a crazy cat lady.
Again, the creativeness of it all. It could be 4 tattoos instead of 5 or 6. Who knows? It could have been engaged in Hawaii, but not on the beach, because y'all are funny like that. Or my favorite, it was a Hawaiian themed restaurant or resort. And
see, there's so many ways to twist it.
Absolutely. The creativity is endless and I love it. And also my lovely cat lady thing. I want to say that the lie is the cats.
You're right. I am not a crazy cat lady. I'm actually deathly allergic to cats.
Yeah, I had a feeling. None of them came up in conversation. Usually they do one way or the other. B, when you said about, wanting to live in the mountains and stuff with your allergies, I'm like, that probably means that she's allergic to other things too. But
Yep.
yeah. So
Yep.
cool. So you did get engaged on the beach in Hawaii. Nice.
We did. We went to Hawaii. We had planned a trip to go to Puerto Rico for my 30th birthday, and our flight got canceled that morning. And then my mom ended up in the ER having to have emergency gallbladder surgery. So the whole trip got canceled. So we did a makeup trip on my 31st birthday and decided to go to Hawaii instead. And
don't bring you there.
Right. My boyfriend at the time, we went to Kauai. We had been going for days and just sightseeing and exploring with my parents and my sister. And he knows that I love trees. And he found this really gnarly tree on one of the beaches. It was the very end of the day, and it was just so beautiful. And there was this log that was just beautiful. Everything was beautiful about it. And that's where he decided to propose. He gave nobody any heads up. He'd been walking around with an engagement ring on him for days. And asked my mom, can you take our picture real quick? Because my mom's a photographer. And he knew I wanted pictures of our proposal whenever it happened. And so my mom got pictures of him proposing to me on the beach during sunset in Hawaii.
Nice. And didn't tell a damn person, huh?
Nope. My mom's like, if you would have told me, I could have made sure my settings were right.
Oh my God.
Like, yes. I wanted it to be a surprise.
Yeah. It's okay. There's certain things you want plans, other things you don't. I mean, I keep messing with my husband after 20 years of marriage that when he proposed, the ring did not fit. And so that running joke is like, what, did you go get it the day before? Did you not know that I was the one? Seriously? He really sucks at planning.
Oh no.
But it's the intent behind it. It's the thought that counts. It's
right.
My favorite stuff. And it's all these how you make the memories, right? Versus all the time that takes to planning. Besides, you guys must have planned a lot of things before things happen with the airline and your mom and the gallbladder. As someone that has something recently happen like that to her at the gallbladder, not fun.
Yeah,
not fun at all.
No.
So
no, and I'm like, it was just a sign that wasn't the trip. My husband and I, for my 30th birthday, we had just started dating. We'd only been together maybe 3 months before I was leaving for the Puerto Rico trip. So it wasn't something that he was going with us on, because how do you save up for that kind of trip in just a few months? I mean, that's not, a possibility for most people. And so I think, fate just decided for us that wasn't the path that we should take. And I'm really happy with how it all turned out.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, now, how many years has it been now that you're celebrating?
We got married in 2015, so we are getting ready to celebrate our 8-year anniversary of being married. We've been together since 2013, so we're going on 10 years of being together and 20 years from when we had our first date back before social media, and I ghosted him and didn't give him my last name or phone number so he could look me up in the telephone book.
Nicely done. They have to earn it. I'm sorry.
Right? We were so young. Oh my gosh, we were like an insta-lust workplace romance, sexual harassment lawsuit waiting to happen. But, we were so young. It was so casual that, we weren't really dating. It was just like, starting to test the waters. And then he ended up leaving and finding another job, and we just lost contact. But we ended up seeing each other exactly like 10 years later, and everything just clicked immediately from that point on.
Wow.
So it was a very, very quick romance.
That's great. I've been someone that also started dating their significant other when she was 19. So I'm a trope. I'm an age gap office romance.
Ooh. There you go.
We're so going to do that panel next year. Let's do
Yes.
stay your relationships into tropes. Fun social media post concept. Yes. So age gap, there's an 8-year difference. Office student teacher too. A sort of.
Oh, there you go. That's a hot one right now.
Yeah.
They're kind of bordering into the forbidden trope there.
Yeah. And in this case, he was the academic advisor and I was the front desk receptionist.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, but and he was also a teacher there. So yeah, I mean, beepers back in the day too. So no social media, having to connect with people via beepers and coming up with those lovely codes. Youngins are not going to understand shit about what I'm talking about, but look it up.
Nope. 07734.
Yes. Yep. 007 was his. But yeah, no, those are thanks for sharing that. And we'll have to do something like fat tattoos, but we'll do that in Denver when we're together and hanging out.
Right.
Yeah.
We could play pin the Oreo on the tattoo.
That'd be fun. Lisa's gonna be like, "What's with the Oreos at this event?" And I'm
Why
like,
do we have cases of Oreos?
I'm like, Lisa, you need to listen to the podcast.
Right?
You'll see.
She's gonna regret inviting me.
Nah.
I'm gonna be on the ban list for next year.
Nah, you'll be good. You'll be all fun. Like, if you want to be like, invite the fun girl with the eggnog and the Oreo. I'm like, oh, you mean Samantha? Yeah, that one. Okay, great.
I'll even bring some eggnog. I mean, might be off season, but we'll make it work.
There's cocktails all over the place there in for this event, so why not?
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Before we go, can you tell us what you're currently working on and what's coming up next for you?
So I am currently working on, which I need to be working today, but I probably won't. I'm working on a book called The Third Time's the Charm. And it is the third book in my Beaumont Creek series. The second book, Second Chances, is actually releasing next Tuesday on Valentine's Day. And the audio for the first book, Just One Time, just went live yesterday. So it's a 5-book series. It's small town, New Jersey. Each one is interconnected, but this is one of my few series that they can actually be read as standalones. I mean, if you jump in to an earlier book, you'll have some spoilers. I mean, you'll know that they got together and whatnot. But the series, I like it because I got creative with numbers. So the first book is Just One Time. The second one is Second Chances. The third time's The Charm, Forever Single, and Fifth Will. So all 5 of them have number in the title. And I'm like, this sounds like a terrible town to be in because like Forever Single, Fifth Will, Second Chances. It's just like nobody can get their shit together in this town.
Keep driving past the station.
I'm like, I don't know why everybody is so single in this town, but okay. We're going to fix all that up.
Yep.
But I got the idea, and it's silly, when I was doing the titles, and I didn't know all the characters at the time. I did the titles this way because I have this dream when I have my own office after we remodel our house. I want to make a clock on the wall and use my books for the numbers for the clock. And so I'm like, I could use just one for the one. So I made titles that have to do with numbers so I could put them on my wall clock that doesn't even exist.
Hey, yeah, we have to have goals.
A true author for you.
Yep. Gotta have the goals.
I have another series that has numbers too. So I'm like, I'm almost there. I just have to keep track of what numbers I'm missing. So, we might get some random standalones that pop up just because somebody needs to finish their wall clock.
Hey, where
like
are
11th hour. Right. Yeah. This is my level of planning.
Well, there's intense, so that's good, right?
Right. Keeps me occupied. Keeps me from, other random stuff I could be doing.
That is true. You never know. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for taking the time to hang out with me. It's been so much fun, and I cannot wait to hang out with you in real life in Denver.
Yay! I am so excited. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. I will make sure to have all of your information as far as your website and newsletter and social media links, all that fun stuff over at the landing page for this episode at Viviana Enchantress of Books, so people don't have to go hunting for them. And everyone, again, thanks for listening. Until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. Special thanks to Nixley Zenner, Carol Liebner, Brittany Robinette Leiter, Don Darch, Michelle Bastard, Brandy Schmidt, April Branson. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.